Your kid just got an A on their science project. You're proud, obviously. So you do what every reasonable parent does. You smile big and say, "You're so smart." Sounds perfect, right? Encouraging, supportive, the kind of thing that builds confidence. Except here's what just happened in your kid's brain. You just told them their worth is tied to being smart, which means if they're ever not smart, they're worthless. And now, every future assignment is a referendum on whether they deserve your love. Congrats. You just turned 4th grade into an existential crisis. This isn't about being a bad parent. You're trying to build them up. But certain types of praise don't build confidence. They build fragile egos, secret anxiety, and kids who feel like frauds waiting to be exposed. In the next few minutes, you'll learn the 7 types of praise that backfire, why they create perfectionist people-pleasers instead of resilient humans, and what to say instead that actually works. Number 1, the intelligence inflation. You're so smart seems harmless. Your kid aced the math test, so you're celebrating their brain. Makes sense. Except when you praise intelligence, you're telling them their value comes from a fixed trait they didn't earn and can't control. Stanford psychologist Carol Dweck spent decades studying this, and her research is brutal. Kids praised for being smart become terrified of looking dumb. They start avoiding challenges because challenges risk failure, and failure means they're not smart anymore, which means you won't be proud, which means they're unlovable. So they stick to what's easy. They quit when things get hard. They'd rather look lazy than stupid. Meanwhile, the kid you praise for effort, for trying different strategies, for persisting, that kid sees challenges as interesting instead of threatening. They think, "I'm not good at this yet," instead of, "I'm not smart enough." You're so smart just taught your kid that struggle means inadequacy. Try this instead. "You worked really hard on that." Or, "I love how you tried a new approach when the first one didn't work." You're praising what they control, and suddenly failure isn't an identity crisis. Number 2, the talent trap. Same problem, different flavor. "You're a natural athlete." Or, "You're so artistic." Sounds like you're recognizing their gifts. What they hear is, "My value depends on having natural talent, and if I have to work hard, that means I'm not naturally talented, which means I'm a fraud." Northwestern University research shows that kids praised for innate ability develop something called impostor syndrome early. They feel like they're tricking everyone into thinking they're good, and one day, everyone will figure out they're not. So they either overwork themselves into burnout trying to maintain the illusion, or they quit before anyone discovers the truth. Your 10-year-old soccer star suddenly doesn't want to play anymore? Might be because you kept calling them a natural, and now that the other kids are catching up through practice, your kid thinks their talent is gone and they've been exposed. What works better? "I noticed you've been practicing your left foot," or "You've gotten so much better at passing since last season." You're pointing to growth they created, not magic they were born with. Number 3, the comparison compliment. "You're the best player on the team" feels generous. You're hyping them up, but you just made their worth competitive. Now their value depends on being better than other kids, which means other kids have to lose for them to win. Harvard research on social comparison shows this creates kids who can't celebrate other people's success because it threatens their own identity. They become the adults who feel secretly awful when their coworker gets promoted. They struggle with collaboration because collaboration means sharing credit, and sharing credit dilutes their specialness. Plus, what happens when they're not the best anymore? Because eventually, they won't be. Someone faster, smarter, funnier will show up, and your kid's entire sense of self collapses. They weren't building confidence, they were building a house of cards that required everyone else to stay beneath them. Number 4, the generic gush. Quick favor before we go deeper. If this is landing, could you take 1 second to tap that subscribe button? Believe it or not, over 97% of viewers haven't subscribed yet. Anyway, back to the praise that's secretly breaking your kid. "Good job," said automatically after everything they do. Sounds supportive, except it's so vague it's meaningless, and kids know it. They just showed you a drawing they spent 30 seconds on, and you said, "Good job," with the same enthusiasm you'd use if they'd cured cancer. What they learn is that your praise is cheap, disconnected from reality, and not actually about what they did. University of Chicago research found that generic praise makes kids tune out all praise because they can't trust it. They don't know what was actually good or why it mattered, so they can't repeat it. Worse, they start performing for your reaction instead of developing their own internal sense of accomplishment. They become praise junkies who need constant external validation because they never learned to evaluate their own work. What actually helps? Specific observations. I love the way you used purple for the sky. That's unexpected. Or, you figured out how to make the wheels turn. That took problem solving. Now they know what was valuable and why. Number 5, the outcome obsession. You won, or you got first place, celebrates the result. And sure, results matter. But when that's all you celebrate, you teach them that only winning counts. The effort they put in, irrelevant if they lost. The improvement they made, doesn't matter if someone else was better. MIT research on achievement motivation shows that outcome-focused praise creates kids who are terrified of failure and willing to cheat to avoid it. Because if winning is what gets your love and attention, then losing means losing you. They start choosing competitions they know they can win instead of challenges that would help them grow. They lie about grades. They quit teams mid-season if they're not winning. And when they do win, they don't feel accomplished. They feel relieved, like they narrowly escaped disaster. That's not confidence. That's survival mode. Try, you stayed calm when you were down by 2. Or, I saw you help your teammate even though you were frustrated. You're teaching them that character, effort, and growth matter regardless of the scoreboard. Number 6, the identity assignment. You're such a good helper seems sweet. You're noticing their kindness. Except you just turned helping into their job. Yale developmental psychology research shows that when you praise kids by assigning them identity labels, they feel pressure to perform that identity, even when it costs them. Your good helper starts saying yes when they want to say no, because saying no would mean they're not a good helper anymore, which would disappoint you. They become people pleasers who sacrifice their own needs to maintain the label you gave them. Same with, you're so responsible, or you're the calm one. Those aren't compliments, they're roles. And roles are prisons. Kids perform them even when it hurts, because they think that's the version of themselves you love. The kid labeled responsible won't ask for help when they're drowning, because responsible people don't need help. The calm one suppresses their feelings, because showing emotion would break character. Instead, describe what they did, without making it who they are. You helped your brother without being asked. That was kind. Or, you handled that stressful situation really well. It's something they did, not something they are, which means they're allowed to be different tomorrow. Number 7, the effortless illusion. You make it look so easy. Sounds like a compliment. You're in awe of how natural they are. What they hear is, if I have to work hard, I'm doing it wrong. This one's insidious because it punishes effort. Kids start hiding how much they practice, study, or struggle because struggle suggests they're not naturally good, and not being naturally good means they're failing at the thing you think is easy for them. Cambridge research on academic achievement found that students who believe success should feel effortless are more likely to give up when they hit obstacles, because obstacles mean something's wrong with them. They don't develop work ethic. They develop shame about needing to work. Your kid who makes piano look easy is practicing in secret and having panic attacks before recitals because they're terrified you'll find out it's actually hard and realize they've been faking it this whole time. What works? I know you've been practicing every day and it shows. Or, you've put in so much work on this and I can see the progress. Now effort is valuable instead of embarrassing, and hard work is something to be proud of instead of hide. Number 8, the praise that actually builds them. So what does good praise look like? It's specific. It focuses on process over outcome. It notices effort and strategy. And it's connected to reality. You tried 3 different ways to solve that problem before you found one that worked is worth more than 1,000 good jobs. Dog morning routine, canine behavior patterns, dog cortisol levels, territorial behavior in dogs, dog social cues, canine time perception, dog body language, morning dog habits, dog owner synchronization, canine stress hormones, dog anticipatory behavior, territorial marking dogs, dog reference humans, internal clock dogs, dog routine science, canine morning ritual, dog behavioral signals, pet behavior patterns, dog circadian rhythm, understanding dog behavior. You kept going even when you were frustrated, builds perseverance. Columbia University research on growth mindset shows that when kids are praised for things they control, like effort, strategy, focus, persistence, and improvement, they develop resilience. They see challenges as opportunities instead of threats. They don't need to be the best or the smartest or the most talented. They just need to keep trying, keep learning, and keep growing. And weirdly, that actually makes them better at everything because they're not wasting energy protecting a fragile ego. They're free to fail, learn, and improve. Number 9. Why this matters more than you think. Your praise is writing the script your kid will use to talk to themselves for the rest of their lives. When you say, "You're so smart," they'll grow up thinking, "I have to be smart or I'm worthless." When you say, "You worked really hard," they'll grow up thinking, "Effort is how I grow." Psychology Today research on self-talk shows that the way parents praise or criticize becomes the child's inner voice. That voice will be with them in college when they're struggling with a hard class, in their first job when they make a mistake, in their relationships when things get difficult. If that voice says, "You're not smart enough," they'll give up. If it says, "You haven't figured it out yet, but you can keep trying," they'll persist. You're not just commenting on a math test, you're installing their operating system. And the difference between "you're so talented" and "you've improved so much" is the difference between a kid who falls apart when things get hard and a kid who sees hard things as part of the process. Number 10. The permission to be human. This whole praise thing feels painful because it comes from love mixed with wanting your kid to feel good about themselves. You're not trying to create fragile perfectionists. You're trying to encourage them. But encouragement that ties their worth to traits they can't control or outcomes they can't guarantee doesn't build confidence. It builds anxiety. The fix isn't to stop praising them. It's to praise what they control and what actually matters. Effort, strategy, persistence, kindness, growth, courage, the willingness to try even when it's hard. When you do that, you raise kids who think failure is feedback instead of identity, who see challenges as interesting instead of threatening, and who know their worth isn't dependent on being the smartest or the best or the most talented. They just have to keep showing up and keep trying. And weirdly, that's what actually creates the confidence you were going for in the first place. Not the fake confidence of thinking they're special, the real confidence of knowing they can handle hard things.